Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And joining me on this episode is the wonderful, fantastic, awesome Laila Gillies, head of HR for Hiscox USA, a leading insurer for more than 600,000 US small businesses. Listen as Leila discusses her experiences of transforming Hiscox talent retention and engagement strategies, elevating employee experiences, and advancing the company's overall industry impact. Leila, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much for being my guest. Before we get into the meat of today's discussion, why don't you just take a minute or two and tell listeners a bit about yourself, your career background, and why you love your current job? Go.
All right. Well, I am the People Director for Hiscox USA, otherwise known as the head of HR. I've been with the organization for 15 years and in financial services and HR more broadly for around 20. I've spent some time leading HR operating model transformations and our global employee engagement practice, as it was called at the time, but predominantly in HR leadership positions where I'm developing plans and strategies to enable business performance. Hiscox USA is, as you said, a specialist insurance carrier with about 500 employees in the US and part of Hiscox Group, where we are helping people and businesses realize their ambitions. In the US, a significant proportion of those people are small business owners who have a vital role in our communities and gives us a great sense of pride. I'm excited to be here, looking forward to the discussion. The best part of my role, my favorite part of my role, is just being in a field where there are no right answers, very few right answers, and one that is constantly evolving. So it's the approach that are taken and the decisions that are made are very much dependent on the circumstances. And that means that we have to really learn from each other and each other's experiences throughout all of this. So it's wonderful to have the opportunity as an avid listener and learner to do the same.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So one thing I heard from your answer there is there are times where it's important to be reactive. How important is it to be reactive versus proactive? What kind of proportion of your job should be reactive versus proactive? Just give me a sense of that.
The majority should be proactive. I mean, in developing those plans, you are always looking forward. To help a business realize its ambitions, you have to understand the business's ambitions, and the business's ambitions are typically not, it's kind of like you're looking at the history, but shaping the future. And to shape the future, you're looking at the future skills, how that impacts the operating model, how it impacts the broader workforce. And that is the crux of the plans. I think in looking back, it helps to shape, you understand your lessons learned and the trends that are used to help forecast what happens in the future. And there is an element of surprise, I suppose, because things are constantly evolving. And so you can be as proactive as you want to be, but then there are other factors in the economy or otherwise that the pandemic is a great example of that, where we just didn't plan for it. So being adaptable and being agile as an HR leader is very key.
I don't think you're alone there. I think the pandemic caught a lot of people off kilter, that's for sure. Okay, so Hiscox implements market-leading employee benefits and programs such as sabbaticals and upskilling initiatives, as well as holistic wellness approaches encompassing mental, emotional, and financial well-being. So kudos to you guys for doing that. How has this impacted employee satisfaction culture, but also retention rates. This year is the year of retention, right? And then lots of companies are expecting to see their employees on the move next year. So they're trying to do everything this year to make sure that they're happy and they want to stay around next year. Tell us about your efforts.
This is another example of where we have to be forward looking. The holistic approach that you mentioned makes a big difference. We understand that well-being is multifaceted, and people have different needs and preferences based on their personal circumstances. So we look at improving employee health in all aspects of employee health. There are a few things with regards to the approach that we've taken that we feel have made the biggest difference. It's more in the how. The first is, what's that saying? Where you could buy a man a fish and he eats for a day, and then you teach a man a fish and he eats for a lifetime. We're very big on teaching people how to fish. So it's not just introducing benefits or giving employees access to benefits, like here's your 401k, here's access to medical care or gym reimbursement and so on, but providing educational resources that build financial literacy and sharing techniques on how to improve mental health through mindfulness and things like that. So then employees kind of like learn more, and it acts as a preventative measure. And that's been a big part of it. We have one coming up, I believe, on creating behaviors that enable healthy habits to last. And I know this because I received a calendar invite from our benefits team. And so it's there. So we're not just putting these educational resources on the intranet. We find that by the time employees go to access them, it's because their health has already been impacted. And you want it to be front and center. So we push the information out and schedule these sessions inside of the workday, which really signals the importance that we place on it. The other piece is making it fun. We are all kids at heart. And so we have wellness challenges and initiatives, things like walking challenges and hydration challenges. And I cannot tell you how into it people get. I mean, it creates such a buzz and a sense of camaraderie in the office. And anytime you can incorporate a bit of fun, we work very hard. So when you can do that and incorporate some social connectivity, that is a good thing. And the third is we are constantly looking for ways to evolve our benefits and our wellness offering. So a few years ago, we introduced paid sabbatical after 5 years of service. We just had an employee come back from a yoga retreat, another employee who's going out just to spend the summer with their kids. And you really have to think about it as an innovative and differentiating aspect of your organization. And anything that you invest in requires that continuous improvement. And it's been wonderful to see that recognized both internally with our teams and externally through Cigna, who have awarded us with the gold standard healthy workforce designation for 4 years in a row. In terms of retention and just satisfaction in general, it's noted as a key strength in our satisfaction surveys and in other surveys that we've done. We've asked employees, what has led you to join? And then later, why do you stay? And in joining, things like wellness are, they're there as one of the reasons for joining, but it's more around kind of like the benefits package from a compensation standpoint. When we ask people what are the reasons that they stay within the organization, wellness is right up there. And it's the feeling of feeling kind of just cared for and looked out for as an employee, and knowing that matters to your employer, that has made the biggest impact. And that's what we've been seeing.
So my understanding is inclusivity. In fact, let's just expand upon that. DEI is a big focus at Hiscox, and as it should be. How has fostering an inclusive culture, Leila, helped the company grow? And as part of that answer, perhaps you can share how important is it to hire folks with diverse views, diverse skills, and diverse experiences?
I mean, it's critical. I don't know how, it went from this nice to have many, many years ago, and people doing it because it was kind of the feeling that it was the right thing to do, where there's so many studies and diversity of thought driving innovation, driving business performance, driving growth, and businesses have started to recognize that. What I found kind of interesting is the expectation that organizations have a focus on DEI has grown tremendously amongst employees as well. And newer generations of prospective employees, they're not just looking for a statement on the corporate website anymore. They're looking at the makeup of the board. They're looking at real evidence of inclusive practices. So our offices are in diverse communities. Our U.S. corporate headquarters is in Atlanta, which enables us to more easily tap into diverse pools of talent. And that has enriched our workforce with ideas and perspectives that have enabled growth. Inclusivity is another important aspect of that. So there has to be that inclusive culture. And there's strong commitment from the top. So our senior leaders feel heavily invested and heavily accountable in that, sharing their own personal experiences and perspectives in DEI, which has been key in creating that psychological safety for employees to do the same. They act as senior advocates for our employee networks, which helps on two fronts. It helps our networks get the guidance and the support that they need to leverage their platform for change. But it has this reverse mentoring effect as well, in our leaders learning more about the experiences and the perspectives of our employee groups or the LGBT community and so on, which is what you want. We feel our role in promoting DEI extends beyond the organization. So we tend to look at it, kind of a bit more broadly. We are a founding sponsor of the Black Insurance Industry Collective. And if you're not familiar, this is an organization that supports and accelerates the advancement of Black talent in the insurance industry. So we participate in roundtable discussions, just sharing best practices. And we also want to see our customers grow along with us. So we've funded some real fantastic market-leading research around the benefits of diversity in small businesses and released that through our small business, our diversity in small business report about a few years ago. So when we think about it, we take that broader approach. We consider our role in the organization as an employer, which is hugely important, but also how we can have a positive impact both in the industry and in the wider community.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. As part of your answer there, you mentioned that your HQ is in Atlanta. There's a city I've not been to. I've done 36 states so far. I haven't done Georgia yet. It's on my list. Another form of diversity, Leila, is ways people like to work. A lot of people like to work remotely. A big lesson from the pandemic is that you can find a much bigger pool of awesome talent if you're willing to allow people to work remotely, work from different time zones and all the rest of it. What are your feelings in terms of remote workers, and how much time do people actually need to be in the physical office these days in 2024?
I'll give you my perspective. I think it differs by the organization and kind of their culture and their values and their views around that. We've seen many organizations take an approach, kind of pull back on that approach. So I think a lot of organizations are still working through it. When we were considering what approach to take, we tend to refer back to our values in times of uncertainty. There really wasn't a best practice established yet, and I don't know that there still is. Being connected is actually one of our values. So we had to really think about what that looked like in the new world. And we did a great job at being connected when we were working remotely, team members checking in on each other and virtual initiatives and things like that. But we place a lot of value on coming together in person and recognize the positive impact that has on building connections and establishing new ones. So we ended up adopting an activity-based approach to working, which allows individuals with the flexibility to work from home when performing activities that are best done remotely. So if you're in a Zoom call with people across multiple locations, or in a virtual training all day, adding a commute time to that just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, coming together in person for those activities that we feel are best done together, such as innovation sessions or team building and things like that. I mean, you can do those in person. You really start feeling the benefits, and so our teams are doing that, and it creates a bit of flexibility, but also empowerment for individuals to help make those determinations. And that's how we balanced it. It is, I'd say, a relatively newer approach. We implemented it over a year ago, and it's been well received, but we're going to continue to monitor and adapt.
Just a quick follow-up on that one. Do you think that the onus on being in the office depends on your seniority, your experience, i.e., I'm a big proponent of a global talent pool. I think that's something that a lot of people were made aware of as a result of the pandemic. However, I feel for junior folks coming into a role for the first time, I think back to my first job, all those things I learned by osmosis, just being in listening, observing, taking in the politics, understanding dynamics and all the rest of it. What are your thoughts on, if you're a more junior person, is it more important that you are physically in an office sometimes?
I think it goes both ways. Actually, in junior employees, I do think it matters, and learning through osmosis happens across all levels. But you also find that employees that are more junior level are more likely to be there when employees that are more senior level are there as well. And there's a lot of talk about kind of how we maintain our culture and so on. When you have individuals who are there, if your culture is around being approachable senior leaders and camaraderie across all levels and establishing trust across all levels and that internal networking. You have to consider your role as part of the broader ecosystem and not by seniority or by kind of looking too narrowly at your direct team. So, there's something valuable there, regardless of what level you're in. Now, I do think in terms of an activity, initial onboarding is, one of those that we've outlined that are more effectively done in person. But I don't think it stops there.
Okay, very good. We are almost out of time for today. Just two last quick questions for you, as we have got an awesome HR senior leader on the call here. What are your predictions for the evolution of HR leadership roles over the next few years? What's impacting it? So, for example, I'm guessing you're going to say AI. In 60 seconds or less, I'm going to challenge you. Go.
Yeah, we've seen it evolve over time. I think we've gotten to that point where we're, at the table using data-driven insights. We have the business acumen. The two skills that I think about into the future are adaptability and digital fluency. So as organizations become more digitally enabled, we have to understand what that means and how to leverage those technologies and the impact that's going to have on the workforce to effectively embed them into plans. And because it's constantly evolving, we're going to have to be more adaptable and agile, as we talked about. So there's not plans that are going to last 5 years, untouched. We are going to have to pivot quickly.
You pivoted quickly to answer that question in under 60 seconds, so congratulations. And just finally for today, Leila, how can the folks connect with you? So maybe that's LinkedIn, maybe you might want to share your email, maybe you're super cool and all over TikTok and places. And of course, how can they learn more about all of the things happening over at Hiscox?
Well, they could absolutely reach out to me to LinkedIn, and I'm happy to share my email as well. So anyone who's interested, and I'm happy to share best practices or what we've learned and kind of what worked for us organization, knowing that it may not work for others. I think it's always important to learn. So they can access me through any channel.
Great. And if they want to learn more about Hiscox, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, we do have, of course, a corporate website, which provides some great information about that. Within our corporate website, there are some avenues to achieve more information. So we do kind of, we have our leaders there, and our leaders in general are happy to reach out and provide that information as well. So that kind of just make the connection, take the initiative to make the connection. We are an approachable culture, and for anyone who wants to learn, people will make themselves available.
Rock and roll. That just leaves me to say for today, Leila, I've enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to do it again with you in the future. But for now, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
This episode of the HR Chat podcast is supported by Deal. Are you looking for an all-in-one solution to manage your global workforce? With Deal, you can easily onboard global employees, streamline payroll processes, and ensure local compliance, all in one flexible, scalable platform. Join thousands of companies who trust Deal with their global HR needs. Visit Deal.com today, that's DEEL.com, to see how you can start managing your global team with unmatched speed, flexibility, and compliance. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy this HR Chat episode.